5,000 farms in Austria. It depends who is calling. And it's a real small structured area in Austria. So we have small farms. All the numbers we have from projects we gathered ourselves. So maybe you can take them to your country if you're also a small structured country, and maybe it differs a bit when you're a larger scaled country. So in the beginning, Marleen said it, that you have to know your energy flows. It's really important how much you use to know and when do you use it. So you can manage it, and is it flexible in terms of time? The work you're doing, can you shift it between your daily work? And if you can shift it, when is the smartest time for that? That you have to know. Then you can balance your energy costs and reduce it to the optimal point. In dairy farming, we have two different load profiles, how much energy you consume from the grid. In this diagram, you can see the milking robot. It's about constant usage of energy day and night time, but not that high peaks of the consumption. And the other one is the milking parlor, where you have the high peaks in the morning and in the evening when you're milking, when you have the milking process. So for the grid, it's easier when you have a milking robot, so it's not that under pressure when you in the morning and in the evening, and through the day maybe use more energy, but the important part is that you don't have that high peaks for the electricity grid. That's a key factor for a lot of rural areas in Austria, that the peaks are very difficult to reach. So when you can reduce it, it's good for your farm and good for the electricity grid. The electricity consumption in dairy farming is most of the time is the milk production, then about 2/3, 12% feeding and 13% lighting, and the rest is cow comfort or manure cleaning. So that's a minor part, and you can just split it up, the milk production, in three parts. The cooling is the biggest part, cooling down the milk, the milking process, and the cleaning afterwards. So it's about a quarter the cleaning, and half of it is about the cooling. The rest is the milking process itself. Yeah, and we, in our advisory work for energy management, we have 4 areas we are counting on. The first most important part is the energy efficiency. Every kilowatt hour you don't use, you don't have to produce, you don't have to manage, and you don't have to think about. And the second point is the energy production on the farm. It's really important nowadays when the electricity bill is skyrocketing, and you can produce your own energy. It's a no-brainer nowadays. That's a very cost reducing for the farm. Third part is the managing. When you produce the energy, you should use the energy you produce and don't feed it into the grid. And don't use the energy when you don't produce it, if you can choose that. And the last part of that 4 is the energy storage in a battery unit or in hot water tanks. I will get to it later. That's the 4 main parts of energy advisory work for us in Austria. When you have done all those 4 steps properly, it's perfect for your electricity bill to fall really low. in the first part, the energy efficiency, I have some possibilities you can use in dairy farming in Austria. The first one is get rid of the energy drains. In daily advisory work, we see sometimes, I've chosen some of the things, freezers that are cooling to minus 30 degrees Celsius. It's a really energy drain. 18 degrees Celsius in minus is enough for everything. So there you can, get rid of the drains. Maybe water, old hot water tank can use a lot of energy. When you get a new one, maybe in 1 or 2 years, you have the return of investment. In lighting, when you have dust there, cleaning and everything, can make a real difference, and maybe some new pumps, vacuum pumps or something like that, that are regulated after the frequency, can drop down your energy usage. That's the first, the most important part, that you know your energy drains and get rid of them, and then you can look further to your to the other parts. The first of them I want to show you is the vacuum pump frequency converters. Old ones only use their normal pace 100% throughout the process. With the frequency converter, it just uses the power you need at the moment. So it varies sometimes 20%, then 50 to 100 and lower down. To get about a feeling in the milking process of the vacuum pump, you need about 1,500 hours a year. So it's for a 4 kilowatt vacuum pump, about 6,000 kilowatt hours. That's about 10 milking units in the milking parlor. You can scale it up. 18 milking units is 7.5 kilowatts. In Austria, the standard dairy size is about 30 to 40 milking cows. So it's a really small structured farms in Austria. I know in Germany and Latvia and wherever you have much larger scales. How do you scale it up? It's about 300 liters per minute and 100 liters per minute per milking hour. There you can scale it. It's about 1,500 operating hours, and you get the payback period 3 to 6 years. It depends on how your use is, how you can use it. And in the end, you have 40 to 60% energy savings to the older one without a frequency converter. To the milking process, there's 2 things to cool down the milk or use the energy in the milk, the thermal energy. It's the pre-cooling before the tank and the heat recovery from the tank out of it. So in the milk pre-cooling, you're from about 35 degrees Celsius, 37 to 18 in the end to cool down. And the payback period is about 4 to 8 years. The cost is in Austria is about 3,000 euros. And the reduction about that is about 40% energy savings, where you use maybe the thermal energy for the cleaning process afterwards. To heat recovery, you can also get the rest of the 18 degrees Celsius to 7, 8, depends how your restrictions are in your country. You can get out 70% of the energy to heat it up to 50 degrees Celsius, and to the top it's the cleaning process. So you can use that energy as well for the recovery. When you use both, the heat recovery only works with cooler milk in the tank, so you have less energy left, and there you can get out of 1 liter milk about 0.3 liters to 50 degrees. In the milk tank, there's a technology. It's called the ice water storage tank. There you can get 900 liters of water in. It's about 5.5 hours for 2 milking cycles, and 3.5 kilowatts. You can get the milk to 7 degrees Celsius in 70 minutes. In Austria, it's mandatory that at the collection of the milk, it has to be under 8 degrees Celsius. So in this example, it's 7. And there you can get the heat out of that. And it's slightly higher energy consumption, but you can cool down the milk when you produce it with the photovoltaics on your roof, for example, and cool it down over the day. So the self-consumption is higher, and you don't need to buy the energy. In the end, it's about 20% more expensive, and the 400 liter water can be heated up to 50 degrees Celsius. You can also use that energy for the cleaning process. The next thing is high efficiency pumps. Maybe you have a heating system with the pumps. There you have up to 6,000 operating hours per year, and there the high efficiency pumps are like the vacuum pump. It's frequency converted, and there you have 80% energy savings. In Austria, old pumps are you can regulate it on 3 levels, but you have to do it manually on the pump, and most of the time it's on the 3rd and the maximum level, and so the pump is every time on 100%, and that makes the 80% energy savings. When you don't need the pump, it's about only a minor, about 10% of the load. So you have a big gap in the savings. The next one I want to show you is the barn ventilation fan with frequency converters. It's getting hotter and hotter in summer, so maybe you have to use a fan to do the air circulation, and there you have the chance to have 50% of energy savings when you are frequency converted, and you have a temperature sensor in the barn. And the payback period is about 3 years when you have the frequency converter. LED lighting, it's another big less energy consumption. You have about 3,500 operating hours per year. Scientific studies show that it's healthier for the cows when you have a better lighting. And maybe the production grows to maybe 5 to 15% in milk daily. And there are different light sources. I want to show the luminous efficacy of the different lighting technologies. When you have the old bulbs, it's about 10 to 12 lumens per watt. And in the end, for the newest technology, the LEDs, you have 10 times more lighting in your working area. So it's much more comfortable for everyone. And you have up to, in industry factories, you have over 200 lumens per watt. In the agricultural sector is about 130 to 180 lumens per watt. So you have about 60% less energy consumption between the neon tubes and the LEDs. Next one is PV powered hot water generation. It's in summer, it's practical, so you don't have to use other heating systems. Maybe when you optimize your system for PV surplus utilization, when you have too much energy production you don't use at the farm, you can put it into the hot water tank to save costs during heating. When you have the right dimension on your farm, it covers the main heating demand during summer, and the main heating system hasn't to be used in summer. And the optimization is going further and further in Austria. So we have automatic manure scrapers, and these optimization things are time savings and reduced labor time for yourself. You have flexible shadowing. When you use it, you don't have to be in the barn, and you can use it multiple times daily. So it's a daily changer for your working routine. You don't have to work hard in the barn. You can look at the livestock, how it's doing. So if you have more time for these things. The same is with the automatic feed pusher. The same three things: time saving, reduced labor time, flexible scheduling, and multiple times daily you can use it. And after a few days, the livestock is getting used to it. The next one we had in the project was an electric feed mixer wagon, so you don't have combustion engines with gasoline. Compared to each other, it's a 70% less energy consumption. The difficulty is it's a high peak load. It's maybe 15 to 20 kilowatts you have to use, and in this part, the load management is important. Use it at noon, where the electricity production on farm is on peak, so you can power it from the roof and not from the grid. It can get expensive when you use it at the wrong time. So that's a work where you're flexible to use and then use it on the daylight when you produce your own energy. The e-mobility is coming to the farms in Austria. It's quite expensive. It's about 30% higher investment than the combustion engines technologies in the same size. And the electric yard loader, you have the 70% energy savings like the slide before. It's a higher investment, but you have low noise, zero exhaust emissions in the barn. So you have cleaner air, and it's easier to maintain without regular oil changes, or it's a high level of comfort for driving and livestock. So the work it's easier. When you say you want to do the higher investment, every farmer I talked to who did that decision don't want to go back. So they love it. It's silent. There's no exhaust emissions. It's just the price you have to invest in the first place. The 30% high investment is after about 3,000 hours of operation, you have that return to the exhaust technology. Some of the dairy farms have hay ventilation drying in the rural areas. So they're drying the air with the heat from the photovoltaics on the roof. They get really hot in summer, about 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. and they use that heat under the roof to dry the hay. It's about 450 watts per square meter thermal energy generated, and it's an improvement of about 6% in the drying process. So you save there some energy when you have the right scenario. When you rebuild the barn or the hay area where you store it, you can think about that. It's more difficult to integrate it to the existing buildings. In the end, there's some tire pressure control systems out there where you can reduce your gasoline usage. The trick is you have higher pressure in the tires on the road, so you save there some energy, and in the field you have lower pressure in the tires so you enhance the soil life. The density of the soil didn't go that far when you use the normal pressure, and so you're enhancing the soil life, and it saves up to 2 tons per hectare wheat, more wheat, because you're enhancing the soil life, and the fuel saving is about 15%. And on the field, you're increasing the tire contact area about 80%. The payback period of this system is about 3 to 4 years. So in the end, the different technologies, photovoltaic and energy storage system can save some energy. So you have to pay less from the grid. 30 to 60% you can consume on your own. In the LED, it's about 40 to 60% savings. The fuel consumption drops to about 15%. Vacuum pump with frequency converter is about 50% savings. The pre-cooling of milk, it's about the same. The e-mobility is about 70% savings, and heating optimization, it's about 20% savings. Heat recovery from milk cooling, the last one, also about 40 to 50% recovery. So that was the point on energy efficiency. Now turn to our second energy production. Here you have to know your energy production and consumption. How does this look in summer? That's a milking parlor in July. When you need how much the energy in the evening, it's about 20 kilowatts. And when you produce electricity from your roof, it's about like that. There you have the differences. Here on this part, you produce more energy than you use yourself, so this would go to the grid. And in the evening, this part would come from the grid. You buy it, so you have to take that energy. You don't want to give it to the grid and use it there throughout energy storage, but we'll come to that later. The same farm in winter looks like this, and the production is pretty minor. So you have in winter, it's really difficult to get a lot of energy out of the PV. In the 3 winter months, December, January, and February, it's about 10% of the whole year over 3 months. So don't expect too much from that in the winter. For the summer half, it's really good, but in the winter half, it's quite difficult to cover your needs. With the milking robot, it looks like that. So you have the same demand through the day, and the production in July, the same one, the production in January, where it's a bit lower. In this example, it was a cloud-free day, so you have a perfect line. Yeah. So that's about the production. In winter, it's quite difficult. There are some other possibilities. In Austria, it's quite difficult for wind production on farm. We don't have that area where you can get it out in farm scale. But there are surely some countries in Europe where small wind turbines are a good solution to produce electricity on farm, especially in winter. It's in winter there's more wind, and in summer it's less, so it's a good combination to PV production. The energy management is getting more and more important the more automated the farm becomes. So everything has to talk to each other to get the most out of it. So execute the flexible tasks smart, match energy consumption to on-site generation, like the food mixer, the electric, and load management is key. Basically, that means use your energy when you produce it. Here we have a load profile from a dairy farm with the electric food mixer. And there you can see in the morning and in the evening the cooling is running, the vacuum pump and the barn. That's at 10 o'clock. It's the electric food mixer. So the farmer used it when he produced the energy. On this slide, there is a 20 kilowatt peak photovoltaic generator, a battery storage of 18 kilowatt hours, and the electricity consumption per year is about 40,000 kilowatt hours. And the own consumption from the produced energy is about 80%. So it's quite good. The battery could be bigger. That was our conclusion after the project. And the milking parlor is about 30 cows. So that's quite the standard size in Austria. So the load management visualized between the hot water tank, the grid, the energy storage, the e-mobility, and the energy production is really important, that they talk to each other when you use what, when the energy goes where. There are a lot of systems out there that can do that pretty well. And the fourth point is the energy storage. So we look into that. What are the possibilities nowadays? Basically, when I show you this graph, that's about 2 days when you produce and feed to the grid and store it in the battery. The yellow part is the energy production from the PV. And there you can see the blue under zero. That's the part where the energy flows into the battery storage. And the green part down, that's where you feed the own produced energy to the grid. And you try to reduce that part. In the evening, you're discharging your storage and don't need that energy from the grid. In the morning, the storage is empty, so you have to use the grid, and then the photovoltaic system is producing again. That's quite the same farm as in the graphs before. There you have a week in the summer, so you see there's a lot of grid feeding in from the PV, and the storage is doing well. But in this scenario, it could be more. So more a bigger storage, so you can compensate the green parts here with the storage, that everything is blue. So the direct consumption from the PV is about 45%, and from the grid it's about 40%, where you can get the energy from the grid. When you look at 1 week in winter, it's a completely different scenario. So basically everything is power grid supply, about 80%, and in this scenario you won't say the storage is too small. So you have to get a middle between the summer scenario and the winter scenario, because there the storage is nothing doing in 5 days. And when you scale it up for the summer scenario, it's not worth the money, because half of the year it won't get used that much, and the battery also get older over the years when you use it and when you don't use it. It basically don't depend on your usage. It depends on the how old the battery is. For example, there's a calculation from a 60 dairy cows with milking robots. It's about 26 kilowatt peak photovoltaic system and 18 kilowatt hours energy storage system. These projects are a few years old, so the storage system was pretty expensive. In the last 2 years, the prices dropped dramatically. So in this case, the energy storage would be about 40 kilowatt hours, but back then it was really expensive, so it is a smaller energy storage unit. The farm produced about 27,000 kilowatt hours. It was able to consume 15,000 from that, and from the 15,000, 6,500 kilowatt hours were from the storage. And to grid was 12,000 kilowatt hours, and from grid they bought 22,000. In the end, it was about 37,000 kilowatt hours of electricity consumption, and that means the self-consumption rate is 55%, 45% goes to the grid, and the self-sufficiency rate is about 40%. So in the end, 60% of the consumption is from the grid, and the charging cycles, that's the number. What is really important, if you have the right dimension of your energy storage unit, it's 365 charging cycles. So each day the battery went from 100 to 0 and back again to loading to 100. In the end, it's a good dimensioning is about 200 to 250 charging cycles a year. So here the charging cycles are higher, so the battery could be bigger to get to 200, 250. When you have less than 200, you have a big battery for summertime, but in winter it's not worth the money. So maybe get a smaller one. And there's about, in our advisory work, we want to reach about 60% electricity self-sufficiency. That's the point where we say that's a scale where it's the right ratio between the money you have to invest and the usage you get out of it. If you have 70 or 80% electricity self-sufficiency, it's really expensive and you don't have that advantage. So 60% is a good marking point, and I have the milking robot and the milking parlor. For example, on the x-axis, you see the ratio between PV and the battery. So in the middle, the one, that means at this point you have to use 24 kilowatt peak PV and 24 kilowatt hours battery, and to get the 60% electricity self-sufficiency. And in the milking robot farms, you have a higher baseline for the usage. So the line is higher. There you have to use about 50 kilowatt peak PV and battery. And nowadays it's getting more to the ratio 1:2. So in the end, you were landing here about 20 kilowatt peak PV and 40 kilowatt hours battery unit, and about 35-ish kilowatt peak PV for the milking robot, and 35 kilowatt hours battery. That's some numbers from 30 megawatt hours a year consumption of electricity in that part. And I want to show you this QR code. That's about our brochures we made after the last decade. Sadly, it's only in German, so our German friends can scan the QR code and see through it. It's for dairy cows, for a lot of other parts of the agriculture. And feel free to ask me questions when you have one. I don't know if there's some in the chat, but we'll see, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Armin. There's one question in the chat. I think maybe you can write it down. Then I'll give the floor first to Maarten. Okay. Thank you for your explanation. A lot of technical stuff, which is really nice. I also have some questions, but I will wait for the Q&A after we heard Maarten as well, and then maybe we can combine some things. Maarten, okay. As I said previously, I have invited you because you have a kind of double role. You're an advisor and a farmer yourself. We all heard Armin's explanations, and Maarten will now explain, I think in practice, what the decisions you have made together with your family at your farm. Yes, the floor is yours.
Indeed, like Marleen said, I'm an energy consultant at Boerenbond, but also my parents and my brother run a farm, and I go through with you all the things we have done and the experience we have with them. The first step, like Armin also said, know your farm. This is the farm we have today. Can I point? Yes. We used to have a smaller cow shed here with around 20 to 30 cows. Then we built a bigger cow shed for 50 cows and the young cattle that you see here. And our latest expansion was the building of a young cow shed, a cow shed for only the young cows here, and then expanding to around 120 milking cows today. Also, we have some fattening pigs, and that is the barn that you see here. So that are the things that I'm gonna talk about today. So we went to using manual milking, or with at the morning and at the evening. So the two pigs Armin also talked about, two milking robots and two milking robots today, where we have a more even energy profile. So when we have done, now I'm going to talk about the different energy saving measurements we did. At the first, the ventilation of the pigs. They have a ventilation in each room. It used to be voltage regulated, but now it's with DC current. It's sort of like a frequency controller, and we save around 40% in energy with it. And that's a lot of energy at the pigs is from ventilation. We do have good experience with it. One thing that we had with the new vents was when the power went out and back up again. Some of the vents broken because they had some problems with that. A lot of them were replaced under warranty, but some of them, at years later, we still have that problem. Most of them are now replaced by newer types, which don't have that problem. So we're good now. But just the thing that I would say, if you do something new, also check with your colleague farmers if they good experience with that or not. Maybe some things like this happened, and they can say, maybe better, push to the new one or another supplier. The next thing we did was also the central heating pumps at each room of the pigs. They have a separate heating pump. They used to run 24/7, even in summer or when the pigs were big, and they didn't need to be needed. We could just plug them out when they didn't need to be, but if they're shut down for a really long time, the possible is that they're gonna get stuck. So here we did a really simple measurement. We placed some simple socket timers on them, so they run 15 minutes a day, always, every day. But if we need the heater, we just manually put them on for a few weeks when the pigs are small and it's cold. And with this simple thing that you not think about at the first time, maybe we save around 250 kilowatt hours a pump a year. So that's a really simple measurement where you can do a lot of savings. And in our cow shed, when we built them in 2011, there were these high mercury lamps. It's sort of a TL lamp, but in a smaller format. It's a high bay, so we only have around 10 lamps of them for the whole cow shed. We replaced them with new LED amateurs. So we went to 400 watts on each lamp to 200 watts with the LED version. So we halved in energy usage, but we almost doubled in the amount of lumens, the amount of light we get from them. So we have a lot more comfort for the cows and for ourselves, that we see also better. So that's also a thing that can be very interesting. The next thing I want to talk about was the cooling of milk. Armin also said that. So we have a pre-cooler which cools the milk from around 35 to 37 to around 15 to 20 degrees with the water. We don't use the hot water from that for heating further, but it's drinking water for the cows. They really like the little hotter water, so that's coming to that. And also with the cooler of the milk, we put on 2 or 3 years ago a heat recovery on that, on the hot side. So we got a temperature of around 50 to 55 degrees, which feed in to our solar boiler, which I'm gonna talk about a little later. So our solar boiler heats the water from the heat recovery to around 80, 90 degrees, which can be used for rinsing the robots. From this, our heat recovery at the moment, it's not working. We have some contamination in our water, so we think it's a big stuck or plugged. So that's a thing we need to see at the moment, how we can solve that. But what I want to say with that also, check once in a time, does it work correctly? do I get still a hot temperature out of something? Does it work like it needs to be? Yeah, some things maybe they can go out for months at a time, and if you don't check them, yeah, you don't know, and it's a bit sad if you made an investment to it and it's not working properly. So that's a thing to consider. That were the energy savement measures we did the last years. Also, we did something at producing energy. With the building of our cow shed, we also put in a solar boiler. So it's only heated water, unlike solar panels, which make electricity. We got hot water from them. It was dimensioned for 1 milking robot. With the expansion of 2 milking robots, we said we chose for the heat recovery on a milking pump because, with the solar boiler, the same as solar panels, we have low yield during winter. So our thought was, instead of 10-15 degrees, water around 10 degrees, we do get in the winter water from 50 degrees where we can heat up further. And in the rest of the season, we can, the solar boiler, which is dimensioned for only 1 robot, doesn't need to work that hard to further increase the temperature of the water that comes from the heating recovery. It was also, the solar boiler was something interesting at the building of our cow shed because of a subsidy we got also from putting that amount of square meters of solar collectors. So it's region specific from some technologies point of view, but it's also important to note some subsidy measurements that are in your region that can make or break an investment. Then we put in solar in 2023 of around 160 kilowatt peak. It was a little too big for our usage in Henside. We put in the order at late 2022 when the electricity prices were a lot higher. We thought, it maybe wasn't going to stay high like that, but they will be higher like they used to were. But they lowered a little bit more than we hoped or we talked for putting in the solar. So in hindsight, we maybe put in the solar installation a little too big for our usage. We use around 100,000 kilowatt hours a year. So that's also something to be careful about. The energy situation of today isn't a guarantee for the next years. So also be careful of the extra things that they promise you or make you happy for maybe a little bigger and you're gonna make a lot of money. Be careful with that and stay at the basic principles of something and the things that you're certain about. That's the thing I would say about that. Investment was in October of last year. We placed a battery of around 215 kilowatt hours. It was for improving the self-consumption, because we have a little bit higher of a PV panels. It was also more interesting. And we're currently also participating on imbalance markets, helping the grid to stay stable. In 2024, it was very interesting in Belgium. Now it's a bit less, so we're also evaluating on that if we need to change our perspective and more on the self-consumption or not. There were also some ideas for maybe we need to go even bigger and put 2 batteries to more participate on the imbalance markets, but we're really happy we didn't do that. Maybe like the solar panels, just stick with the the basic things. The battery is correctly damaged for dimensioned for improving self-consumption. So we have that security that the battery is useful. If we went too big, we were really hoping for the imbalance markets to make a return. But if that's a lot less, like nowadays, we had an extra battery which wasn't really useful. So we're really happy we didn't do that, and we're following up on that choice. That was my part. I don't know if there's questions at the moment.
Yes, I will continue to the Q&A. Thank you very much, Maarten. I really understand that it's quite difficult to make decisions on investments in a really rapidly changing energy market with changing prices, regulations, etc. I think that's also a message. And Maarten and I, we have been trainers, energy trainers as well. I think Armin also for farmers. Yeah, I think being careful. We don't know what the future will be, but that's indeed a very difficult situation. Thank you, Maarten. Are there any questions for Armin or Maarten? Sorry, Richard.
To the question in the chat, I
Yes.
want to say that the parlor consumes much less energy per year than the AMS. But the peak loads are there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Richard.
Yeah, okay. First question for Armin. I will have a comment afterwards as well. But Armin, obviously your work was done in Austria with a very low, or in UK terms anyway, a very low average herd size. How with the percentages that you quote for the different savings, how constant are they when you upscale the size of the herd?
So it's the savings of the technology itself. So when you have a frequency converter, it compensates 60% because you don't use every time 100%. So it's scalable, I think. So not exactly, but in that region.
Yeah, because with my warp logic on that, I was thinking if you've got a farm with sort of 10 units in the milking parlor, if you're on that rather than a robotic milker, and you've got one with a 30 stall milking parlor, then the actual load would be more constant, and therefore the savings with the frequency regulator would be less in that situation. But
yeah, it depends on what is on the farm and how the usage is, how many hours full throttle you use it, and then you have to calculate the energy savings, what's possible.
Yeah, if I can, Marleen,
yes, of course.
I'd like to put one comment again on. You mentioned the LED lights. I mean, there is a practice abstract on it in Climate Farm Demo among there. The huge benefit of the LED lights in dairy cattle is, I think, the increase in production and animal welfare you get with using the correct wavelengths within LED lighting far outweighs the significant savings in electric that you actually have highlighted today. So I'd like to. There's a lot of other benefits from going to this technology, and I guess my last question is, obviously you worked with PV mainly, a little bit of wind power within that. Now we're seeing the emergence of modular AD plants that can be tailored up to, certainly on dairy farms and pig farms, can be tailored up to the size of which to the energy usage of the farms itself. How would you compare the benefits of using energy from derived from AD plants rather than PV and wind plants?
AD plants, you mean what exactly? I don't know the
yeah,
English.
so anaerobic digester. So basically modular. So taking the manure from the cows and the pigs, and then putting it through either biogas and running electric plant off biogas or
the small scale digesters.
Yeah,
small scale digesters.
Okay, thank you. Use that with what you have. So in Austria, the wind power plants are pretty minor at farms because you don't have the wind in the regions. They're on the mountains and in the flat surface. You don't get that wind speed, and use what you have on your site in your country. So when you have the biogas is pretty expensive, but when you have bigger farms, it get more and more rentable. So use that heat and biogas generation when you can, when you have it. The baseline with biogas, you have a good baseline of energy production, and in winter it can save a lot of money with that.
Okay, thanks. And my final comment, sorry, Marleen, this is my last comment on there. You also mentioned within your thing the move to the electricity powered tractors stroke loaders on farm. And as you mentioned quite rightly there, that those engines come with a big increase in cost, 30 to 35% as a minimum probably, and obviously the battery size and load it sometimes is not right. Have you looked at the converting of the internal combustion engines for hydrogen power and how they actually compare on farm?
Powered with hydrogen, it's pretty inefficient because you have to use that much electricity to produce the hydrogen, and it's pretty expensive, the technology, and at that scale on the farm it's too small to get rentable, and I think it will take a lot of years that hydrogen will get used to usage in the daily life for other things than on the farm. I don't think that's the solution on the farm, and on the field as well. Hydrogen won't be that popular. I think it's because of the expensive production.
Yeah, we had the same experience in Flanders and also in the European project Hyperfarm, where hydrogen was also part of the project, of the research. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Armin, I also had a question, and it adds a bit to what Richard was saying at the beginning about payback time and scale of the farm, because I was a bit surprised by the high payback time of the milk pre-cooler.
Okay.
I remember but I look at Maarten now. Armin said 4 to 8 years payback time for a pre-cooler, which sounds pretty high to me, as we have the experience. I think in Flanders that it's quite lower. It's like more one thing you should do. It's one of the first things. But of course, if you talk about 30, 40 cows and you compare it with an average size of, for example, 100, I mean, the milk production, of course, is an important, I suppose, an important factor or an important parameter in this calculation of the payback time.
And it really depends on the price you pick from the energy usage from the grid.
Of course.
And that was quite volatile the last years, so it can vary in the calculations. So the more expensive it gets from the grid, the earlier you get the payback time.
Yeah, I also think, like Marleen says, if you install a pre-cooler for 30 cows or for 60 cows, the additional price is not that much. It's not going to double that price. So if you have more cows, it's going to be a lot lesser than that.
It takes the same time to install it, the small one and the big one, and then you have the scale effect that it's getting cheaper in installation.
I also have a question about hay ventilation, drying. Is this, and I'm looking at Maarten, but also the other participants in the meeting, is that something that is common in your countries to use like PV, the heat from the PV? I think it's interesting.
On the baseline, it uses the hot
Yes.
air from the roof, not especially from the PV. Most of the time, it's just the roof where you suck the hot air underneath to the hay. And that's an example where from our project where the PV was installed. And it's not that often. It's more in the rural mountain areas. We have a lot of grassland management and the small dairy farms. There it's getting more and more used. But we only have one advisor in whole Austria that is on that core topic. So
yeah, I think hay ventilation in Belgium is really a niche because we maybe have the luck that we're we mow the grass, we let it dry on the grass, then it's really dry, and then we pick it up when it's dry. I suppose when you're higher in Austria, you can't really do that, and you more need to use sometimes of ventilation to dry the hay.
You can do it, but sometimes the weather is not that constant over the days where you have to cut the grass, and then you can use that method as well. There's maybe more volatile weather conditions in Austria with the Alps than in Belgium.
Yeah, I think that was a good remark of Maarten. Indeed, we don't need it that much. You see here, all farmers working when we have dry times. So it's probably different as well. Yes, the same for you mentioned already wind production. Yeah, difficult in Austria, of course. Rest of Europe is maybe a bit a different story. Like for example, even in Flanders, we don't have much coastline, but we have quite a lot of really small wind turbines, like 15-meter high. Rentability is not what they promised always. I think Maarten knows, he has experience with farmers complaining about that. But yeah, given the really high electricity prices some years ago, giving this new, it was not a new technology, but a new type of wind turbine. I mean, the really small ones. It was very popular, and Maarten can confirm as soon as we launch a demo day or an information day on a wind energy, we attract a lot of farmers. So it's very popular, but it's not always what is promised. So even in our more windy region than you have in Austria, it's quite difficult. Yeah, so that's why PV is most of the time the most easy option, not only cost-wise, but also for the permits. Wind is very difficult to get permits, but for permits, simplicity, it's just some PV panels on your roof. That's why. Maarten, but if participants have a question, please raise your head and go ahead. But if there aren't questions, I have a question for Maarten. Do you and how do you manage the different loads in function of your PV production? Do you take specific measures to match more your production, your consumption and your production?
Not yet on a smart way. We do use some simple timers that we say our electric boiler, between 12 and 2, I think, that they're heating, because then is a moment when we have a lot of sun. We also have prices per kilowatt per quarter. So then is the electricity price also lower usually, but not yet a smart way to, there's so much over, now we're going to use that or that. That's maybe a thing we more can do in the future, but not at the moment.
No. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Armin, you were talking about the 60% electricity self-efficiency you're aiming for. Can you explain a bit about the parameters that influence this, I suppose, electricity price at the first place?
Yeah, and the scalable, maybe we can go back to the slide. And we did that with different farm usages with megawatt hours per year, and it's getting yeah, maybe the curve is like can I use the laser pointer?
Yes.
So when you have more energy usage, the line goes like this. And then there is the part where it's getting pretty even, and there it's very steep. And so that was the point where we say, okay, 60% is about the optimal sweet spot for investment and usage of the technology. And when you want 70%, it's about this, and 80% like this, and yeah, it's getting more and more. And you have a 200 kilowatt peak PV for 30 megawatt hour usage in the year. So it's not that scale useful anymore for the price you pay in the first place. So we said 60% is nice, 70 is difficult. Maybe in some scenarios it depends what you have installed on your farm. 70 is reachable. 80 is like to show off to your neighbors maybe.
Yeah.
But
really over dimension.
Yeah, but it's an overkill.
The overkill. Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions for Maarten or Armin? No. Then I will continue. Just the last slides of this webinar. So outlook for the next month in 2026. As you know, we are expected to share with you or organize some events on energy management. And we not only have the webinars, but we also have a cross visit in climate forum demo project at least. So we were thinking about organizing a cross visit on agrivoltaics in Belgium during spring, summer 2026. I'm very lucky. I'm in the jury of PhD, and this person, Cas, is finishing his PhD in autumn, and he is really keen on organizing together with all of us a cross visit on different, at least one and maybe also different sites of agrivoltaics in Belgium. So invitations will follow. You can then subscribe. We're not sure yet how to do it, but you will see it coming over the next months. And then in autumn, we will have a next webinar, again, in the Farmers with Power series. Maybe there is, we can think of another subsector for regarding energy efficiency measures. We will discuss amongst us first, and maybe we'll send out a survey to ask for your input. That was it. I hope you enjoyed it, you learned a bit, and then we see you next time. Thank you.